Well, after burning up one heat gun, I got the windshield so it fits pretty good. It's not 100% tight against this side here yet, but it's only maybe a ½ inch spring on the sides here, and it fits pretty tight all the way along here. I'm really happy with that. Well, now I've got the trim piece in here that hold the front hold down piece, a trim lip. The inner one, inside one, put in there, and that's the one that I shaped on the with the stretcher and the shrinker, and kind of shaped it to this form around the boot cowl. So there's still going to be a little bit of handwork to do on it, but everything it fits really nice now compared to what it did. I'm really happy with that. I'll be able to do this all by hand. I have to be really careful now with this because I took all the plastic, the protective coating off from it to do the heat bending and stuff on it, the forming on it. I took the outside piece of plastic, the protective coating, and I was able to get it back on there. I kind of stretched it and got it to cling on there and fit on there. But the inside one, I haven't tried yet, but I doubt if I'm going to be able to get it to stick because, of course, it's concave instead of convex, and you can't really stretch it to get it to fit in there. So we have to be real careful with it until I figure out some other way to protect it. Anyway, now we'll try to get these pieces shaped up and formed here, and actually they're forming up pretty good just the way they are. So if I can start drilling that now and riveting this piece in here, the outer, I have to fit the outside piece over the top of the windshield and the inside piece, and figure out how to drill this and get it set in there. I've got a clamp on each side on the top there, but the rest of it fits around there so good it doesn't really need any clamps to hold it in. We're getting this lower inner windshield retainer strip fitted up here, and I decided to go ahead and pop rivet this on like that instructions that they had in the Backcountry Supercubs video. I was going to try to lay it all out and put the inner and outer together here on the windshield and try to drill them and get them all set up for the screws, the nut plates and stuff at one time. But this is such a complex shape, so much tension and stuff on it, getting it moved around, that the only way to really get it fitted right is to go ahead and drill it and cleco it or pop rivet it in, and then do it like they did on that demonstration. So I started in the center, worked my way out, and then came over this edge right here and then down the side. I left this edge without any clecos in it because it needed to be formed. I don't know, I guess it's coming now. I was afraid I'd screwed it up. Well, it's been almost 50 years since I did any sheet metal work in a high school shop, and even then all we did was use a box and pan brake and make a couple of toolboxes and a few other things, and then we did some work with a hammer and dolly and stuff, doing auto bodies type work on sheet metal, and I was pretty good at that for a little while. But again, like I said, it's been almost 50 years since I did it to any extent. But I never did do any sheet metal work like this. This is fairly complex for me. So fitting it in, I really wasn't sure what I was doing here, and I knew, well, when I came over this edge and around this corner, it was puckered pretty good around here, so I figured that had to be shrunk. So I took it off, took it down to the metal shrinker, and I've got to set the metal shrinker up down in the shop because I just have it in a vise. I don't have a stand for either the shrinker or the stretcher, so I just put it in the vise down there. So I've got to set it up in here, figure out what I want to do, and then go down there and do it. It wasn't coming out very good. I wasn't very happy with what I was doing there. I figured I was going to have to just pretty much ruin this piece learning how to do it and get it figured out and buying a new one, having it shipped up. But it looks like it's coming out. It looks like I got it. Like I said, I shrunk this piece because it was puckering a little bit, and then it didn't fit right, and I thought, well, I screwed up and shrunk it too much, or I should have stretched it. So I went down and stretched it, and that was the wrong thing to do. It was getting kind of out of shape, so I put it in the bead roller and just rolled it in the bead roller just outside of the bead, just with the flats to straighten everything back out again. And I tried again. And this is a piece of soft aluminum, so it's workable, but you can only work it so long before it gets work hardened and brittle and starts splitting and stuff. And I was afraid that that was what was going to happen. I shrunk it first on the back, and then that wasn't working, so I went ahead and stretched it. And this back, when you come around this corner and down this side, you flatten this flange out here in that back flange there where it sticks up to brace the behind the window. That would flatten out, and it was a big gap back there. And I tried to bend it up, and I wound up with more kinks like this, and anyway, it was turning into a big mess. So I went ahead and figured, well, maybe I should stretch that back side and shrink the front. So I shrunk the back, or stretched the back a little bit, and then that would kink the front. So I shrunk the front, and it actually turned out pretty good. It was starting to get hard, and I couldn't work it. I just took a torch, just a butane torch, a propane torch, and heated it up. And I didn't have any color crayon or anything else or any indication of how hot it was getting or anything. I just heated it up with the torch and then quenched it in a bucket of water. And boy, that softened it right up, and that is actually softer than it was when I started. I think it's going to work. I got this back flange support for the windshield to come up. This side's coming down. I just got a little bit of a kink right in here. I'm going to have to figure out how to work that out. But this smoothed out real nice along here, so I don't think I screwed this up as bad as I was afraid I was going to. I'll have to do the other side. It's not near as bad as this side was. It's only got maybe just a short section where the back piece is kicked back away from the flange, and it meets up a lot better with that curve and everything on the other side. I did wind up losing my hole locations here going into the boot cowl, so I had to re-drill those because, well, this got shrunk up, and so it pulled away from those holes. But I decided to go ahead and do that and rivet this down, and because the outer piece is going to have to be worked over too. It's going to have to be shrunk and fitted. And I trial fitting on it. It was the same problems. It was puckering going around these corners and stuff. So hopefully I'll get it figured out how to do this on this inner piece, and then the outer piece will be a little bit easier to do. But I'll get this inner piece pop riveted down to the boot cowl. I won't have the clecos in there. I'll be able to work the outer piece around there and get it fitted up. Then I was worried about having all these holes and stuff in this boot cowl, extra holes and whatnot, because there'll be other holes in here. When we put that other piece on, we'll drill holes all the way through the boot cowl for the screws, and then we'll have to rivet the nut plates on the back side of the boot cowl here. And I was worried about having extra holes in here with water getting in them and stuff. And I think I can just go ahead and put aluminum rivets. I've got soft rivets that are going to be easy to drive, or I could just put regular flathead rivets in here and fill those holes with the rivets, and that way there won't be any holes in there, any place for the water to leak in. So this is coming along. It was a lot of work figuring it out for somebody that's never done it before, but it is coming. I'm getting it figured out. Again, I put this plastic on the outside here to help protect it from working on it, and that fit okay. I tried getting the plastic out for the inside, and it just wasn't going to work. It was just all too snarled up and stuff, and I didn't think it was even worth fooling with. By the time I got it untangled and whatever, I don't think I could have got it to stick on the inside. I went ahead and took some masking tape and taped off the inside there to help protect it from any scratches. Well, I've had this windshield on and off here about 50 times if I've had it on once. I've got this little trim strip here, this lower retainer. I think I've got it pretty well fitted on there. I've figured out how to, more or less, how to shrink and stretch, or which parts to shrink and stretch. So I brought this side over and I shrunk this down here on this a little bit, and then I stretched this back side up and got it to come up so it's pretty tight against that windshield. And then I took the heat gun. I was able to get it going enough to use it. It come on pretty good once it cooled down. I peeled back the plastic off of here. I heated just the edge of this windshield along this retainer strip up and pushed it in, held it in tight with a paint stir stick, and got that all formed pretty good, so it's all good and tight. Now we'll take the windshield off, and I'll go ahead and pop rivet this rear retainer strip on. Well, I've got this rear retainer strip all pop riveted on. Now I can go ahead and try to put that front retainer strip in there. Again, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to try to get it all at once, but I could see that wasn't going to work with the shape this was in and everything. And plus the front retainer is going to need some trimming and truing up too. Now after getting this pop riveted on, I can see I probably need to shrink this a little bit more here on this top. You can see you got little puckers right here between these rivets. Anyway, this is what I use. These are just aluminum pop rivets, and they're flathead rivets. So I countersunk these a little bit so they'd be down. I didn't sink them fully, but I countersunk them down so they would lay fairly flat with the top here, so they wouldn't interfere with the fit up of the front trim piece. These rivets are more than long enough, but I couldn't get any shorter pop rivets than this. Got this Marson rivet gun here, this rivet setter, hand rivet setter, and I tried putting them in with that, but I couldn't get the doggone thing to clamp on these stems on this. So I went and dug out this cheap one. This is one I got at the local hardware store, Super Bond. It come in a kit with a bunch of rivets and stuff, and I bought 2 or 3 of them. And the only reason I bought them is because I needed some 3/32 rivets for one of the things I was doing on the plane here, putting some nut plates on back there, and I couldn't get any 3/32 rivets anywhere in town. I had to order them, but this tool came in a kit, and it had a few 3/32 rivets in the kit, so I wound up buying 3 kits to get enough to do the job that I needed. Then I wound up ordering a bunch of 3/32 flathead rivets off of Amazon, and I must have a couple thousand of them. And they throw away rivets, basically, the aluminum rivets. And I do have some cherry rivets now that are shorter and some longer size for putting nut plates on in places and stuff on in places where I can't get into backset a regular rivet. But I didn't want to use those on this because they're expensive, and these are going to be just drilled out and thrown away. Now if you've ever drilled out pop rivets, you know they can be a real pain in the butt. You start drilling them out, and about half of them or more, the drill will catch as you're drilling them. The drill bit will catch in the rivet, and the rivet will start spinning, and then you'll never get it out, or have a heck of a time getting it out, and it winds up hogging the hole out and everything else. So what I do on this, since I know I'm going to be taking these out, is I put a little bit of thread lock compound on the rivets when I slid them in there. And a person could use Loctite or super glue, I suppose. But anyway, hopefully that'll glue those rivets in there a little bit so they don't spin when you start trying to drill them out.